be just doing college football.
Well, if they run, I mean, it's like if they want to pay him a lot more money and get him to do Monday Night Football, I don't think anybody would object to that.
I mean, he is, at least to my ear, the best explainer.
He does a good job.
That you've seen for a long time, and of course that's because he comes from where all great quarterbacks.
Oh Jesus, really? Yeah, Art Schlichter, he was great. Jesus, we're gonna do that.
Can I tell you something? I swear to you, I'm not lying to you. I do not remember him.
Really?
I don't remember his era. I don't know where I was. I have to look up what years he was the quarterback. I might have been. I don't know.
Meanwhile, it's time for you to share the Brad and Britt cast with all of your friends.
So here's why my Facebook thing did what it did, because I transferred all of my passwords over to Safari,
and
it usually it's not an issue. It doesn't wipe them out of Google, but it messes with them, I guess, enough that it decided it didn't recognize me, and you can't use StreamYard. Safari doesn't support StreamYard, so I had to go back to Google. That was the problem.
Oh, got to go back to Chrome.
Okay. All right, here we are. We're late. We're sorry. We apologize.
It's going to be worth the wait, though. Probably not.
We apologize. Technical difficulties, as they like to say. All right, here we go. It is the Brad and Britt cast. It's our first one for this week. A little adjusting here.
There you go. Right. You look fantastic.
Thanks. Great.
Never better.
I got a pretty good list. I can go down the list, or you can revel in your joy of the Oakland Raiders winning one of the great games. No doubt it's one of the great games of all time, late into the night on Sunday. That was a great one. There was a lot of great games over the weekend. This is where people start to tune into football, right? They start to pay attention if they haven't, and they played well. So you know what that means. Next weekend's games, there'll be 6 of them. 5 will suck. But,
well, Brad, as the league reinvents itself all the time, it is super wild card weekend for the first time ever. A game on Monday night.
Yeah, how could that be? What, we're not used to football on Monday night. That's going to be a new thing. I hope they can find a graphics package to describe Monday Night Football. Okay. You know what? We'll go down that rabbit hole for 20 minutes here.
We could easily go down that rabbit hole. I want the big media news, though. I did want to pop on you. There it goes. Your friend Jesse Waters named permanent host of that Fox primetime at 7:00. You can forget Wheel and Jeopardy, pal. 7:00 every night. You'll be turning right over to the Jesse Waters old time bullshit hour.
Can I say that'll just be the same hour on Fox that I never ever watch anyway, no matter who does it. So it's nothing. Next story. What
happened to putting like a hot chick there that the 85-year-old men who are on oxygen tanks want to watch on Fox? What are they doing this for?
They don't even try to fake it anymore.
Really?
They're not even pretending. They're not. So
really?
No, it's just white male fuck faces. It's just, that's all it is.
White male WMF. It's a great demographic. White male fuck faces. Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld. Have we met?
Right.
Oh, that's funny.
You know what? We got four obituaries since we were last together. 4, pretty from the famous to the less famous to the. All right, we'll go in no particular order. We'll start with Bob Saget. That was out of nowhere, of course, from Sunday night. And he's one of those people you just can't find a person to say anything bad about him. And believe me, I looked. I'm always looking for the worst, but there's nothing you can say that's bad about him. Although every write-up was, well, but he did work blue in his stand-up. He was on funniest home videos and Full House. But in this other part of him, he was dirty. Oh, shut up. It's not even. It's too stupid.
And Eddie Murphy used to be filthy as shit, and eventually he did Dr. Dolittle. Shut the fuck up. I don't know what is the point on all that. Didn't you tell me? Now I thought you told me one time that you saw Bob Saget like in Vegas in the 70s, and he was filthy. It was like the filthiest. What was it? What was that story?
It's this. You're going to kill me for this because this is one of those. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
In 1976, and at that point he would have been like 18 or 19 years old. And I know he started early. He was one of those early guys. It might have been him. I was in Los Angeles doesn't matter the reason, and went to the Comedy Store, and there was a guy who was just filthy as anything and as hilarious as anything. And I think it was Bob Saget, but I can't tell you for sure. And I don't want to say for sure, I saw him when he was 18. He was great. I can't do that. So I won't. And I didn't, but I alluded to it. And maybe I was, and there's no way to check. So it's just
he seems to have been a pretty happy guy. Again, not a miserable prick like some of these comics are. And like you said, there's not really anybody out there who wants to say anything or has anything bad to say about him. He seems to be the kind of guy that was surprisingly fairly uncontroversial. He went through a divorce. It wasn't a testy divorce. She got paid what she thought she got, whatever. He's got 3 adult daughters. They don't have anything bad to say about the guy, about what an awful father he is. There's not really much controversial to say about this guy at all, except he said fucking shit in his comedy act. And that was a terrible thing. Right.
You never come back from that. But another person also for whom you can't find anything negative to speak is Sidney Poitier, who died, I believe, on Friday. And again, I'm always looking for something. But I have a slight beef with him. And of course, he was groundbreaking, great actor, the whole thing. First black guy to win Best Actor, all that. But I can't forgive him for making To Sir with Love, which was a big hit in 1967. That was his trifecta year of In the Heat of the Night, To Sir with Love, and I can't remember what the third one was that year. But because that movie spawned that annoying song by Lulu, which survives to this day, which you can't not hear if you bump into an oldies station, or if you have a list of top songs from blah blah year, it shows up. So I know it's not Sidney Poitier's fault, but
it's totally him. That's
had he not been in that movie, it might have sucked.
If
the song wouldn't have become a hit, and we wouldn't have to put up with it all these years later. How petty is that? Is that pretty petty?
Mr. Poitier, if you could have given a shittier performance so that the film would have been quite as popular, that would have been very helpful. But no, you had to be a good actor. I'm going to be a good actor. I'm going to win awards. Look at me.
All right, 2 more. Dwayne Hickman, Dobie Gillis, 1959 to 63 on CBS, show that I only saw probably in reruns because it's a little bit too young. But anyway, if it wasn't for that show, we wouldn't have had Bob Denver. We wouldn't have had Gilligan's Island as we know it. And it was a pretty good show, pretty well received. And then he went on to be actually a CBS executive, I think, for about 10 years of his life. After he crossed over to the other side of the street, but apparently also very well thought of, good guy, Dwayne Hickman.
If you do get to see if you go back and watch that show, if you do watch that show, Dobie, it's like the precursors. It's the beatniks, I guess, is what wasn't that what Bob Denver was playing? Wasn't he playing a beatnik?
Bongos. He was the bongo guy,
And so beatniks were like weren't they like the next step before hippies? Wasn't that like the
Well, but remember, you have to remember, this is the Hollywood left coast, probably Jewish writer version of the stereotype of what America would accept. Which, by the way, is also the Andy Griffith Show. Okay.
It's true. It's true story. Boy, did Ted Koppel piss a lot of people off with it. That piece still reverberates to this day with people that are pissed off about that piece.
Right. I mean, You're correct. It's what America was willing to accept as the stereotype. One more. Michael Wang, the guy who came up with Woodstock.
Oh
It
boy.
was his gig. He was him. If you've seen the Woodstock movie, he's in it a million times, making announcements. He organized it. You remember they tried to reboot it 50 years afterwards in 2019?
Yeah, a
And
couple times. There was Woodstock 94, which was also a massive disaster, and it just.
But
it's
again,
not good.
also very highly thought of, nice guy. So that's our. We don't do mass numbers of obituaries on this program, but they all died together. So
there you are.
all right. So what? You want the list here? Oh
yeah,
hey,
let's go.
How about this one? Who is the anti-vax athlete of the year? Is it Aaron Rodgers? Is it Novak Djokovic? Is it LeBron James? Or is it that white guy on the Buffalo Bills?
No white guy on the Buffalo. Let's talk about the Novak Djokovic situation, because I know you're an aficionado of tennis and you follow it fairly closely. And I did see that John McEnroe was on CNN or one of the news channels yapping away about this and how it's just an absolute. Again, John McEnroe is very studied, very, very steady in his words. It's the greatest outrage in the history of the universe. And John McEnroe's reckoning, nothing worse has ever happened. It's the greatest injustice that's ever been perpetrated on human beings ever. I saw him talk about this. And now the courts have ruled. You go ahead and go ahead with your story. I don't want to take it away.
You know what?
From you.
I have to tell you, I stopped reading the back and forth on this about a day ago because it doesn't. To me, it doesn't kind of mean anything, because I think we have to be true to ourselves here and bottom line this and say, you're not the victim, Novak.
Yeah.
You did this to yourself. And when you add in that little, I'm not going to say if I'm vaccinated or not.
Oh, stop. Just stop.
Game, all right. Which means you're not, because if you were, you'd say it. When you add that in, and then you think that you've gotten past whatever barriers that Australia did erect, would have erected, is erecting to keep people from flying into that continent who are unvaccinated. And then you get into the issue of equality and equal treatment under the law. And I know this is a shock to a lot of people around the world who are watching this, but that's an issue not just in the United States, where we often violate it, but it's also in other countries. And yeah. Do I care if he can compete for his next Grand Slam victory? I don't really care that much anymore. It doesn't mean it, but he's a jerk. And you know what?
How's he the victim on this?
Of the issue, he may have a point. They may have said to him, "You can do this if you blah blah blah." And you know what? I don't even care anymore. I don't care about the facts of the case. You're just a jerk, because you know how you just could have been vaccinated.
Yes.
Because the assumption that he's making, I think, is that by not being vaccinated, he has some kind of physiological advantage over everybody else.
I'm so tired of this.
Because if he didn't think that, he'd get vaccinated.
How he gets held up as some sort of victim in this, I just don't understand. He's some sort of martyr to the anti-vax crowd, and he's a victim in all this shit. It's just boring, and it's wrong, and it's maddening, Brad. It's just ridiculous.
It is the definition of too stupid to talk about. It doesn't deserve a minute of thought, because you know what? We're 2 years into this stupid pandemic. And if you're not vaccinated and you refuse to get vaccinated, or you've had it and you've decided that means you definitely don't have to get vaccinated, I hate you. You're a moron.
You're a
moron. Get off my planet. Go away.
What about natural immunity? By the way, there are many peer-reviewed studies that show that immunized vaccine immunity is better than natural immunity. So just shut up with that. Like, doctors and shit are saying that. So stop it with your Joe Rogan informed bullshit. By the way, here we go. In France, thousands protest against proposed new vaccine pass. They're very upset at Macron because he said he wanted to fuck over the unvaccinated, Brad. Very upset at Macron.
Good. Well, I don't care. I don't care.
It was amazing.
Oh, hey, you know what? We can be at this 2, 3, 5 years from now if we try hard enough.
Right.
If we have enough people willing to stay outside of the realm of immunity, and the perverse part of this is that through the back door, because Omicron is way more infectious but less severe,
Mm-hmm.
it's become quite obvious that a lot of people either have had COVID or may even have it and don't know it. And that's,
Right.
of course, proven by the fact that apparently about half the people who check into hospitals right now who test positive for COVID checked into the hospital for something other than COVID. Of course, they test you if you come in for a broken arm.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow this is giving comfort, and it's proof that you don't need to get vaccinated, because clearly those people who came in with a broken arm but felt fine otherwise, COVID didn't hurt them. But you follow the insane logic of this, as if it's great, it's fantastic that the overwhelmed hospitals, which have the normal number of people coming in for everything anyway, plus the COVID population, that the total of the COVID positive people is half who came in with something. And that's fantastic. That's just proof. Ready, sitting down. That's proof that vaccines don't work. No, it's not. It's not at all. It has nothing to do with that.
The point,
Because
let me explain.
Let me define the phrase, what vaccines don't work means to the anti-vax crowd. Vaccines don't work to them is a false narrative of, you promised us that if we got vaccinated, we would never, ever be able to contract COVID, which of course that's a straw man argument. It was never the point, but go ahead.
Listen very carefully. The vaccine is designed to keep you out of the hospital and out of the morgue. I'm going to repeat that. The vaccine is designed to keep you out of the hospital and out of the morgue. And by those standards, which are the defining standards, that was the point of the vaccine, and really any vaccine that you would like to name, Brad, that's the point. And by those standards, the vaccine works. A very, very high, way up there with any vaccine that has ever been put out there. It has accomplished those things brilliantly and beautifully. Am I wrong? Have I said something incorrect?
No, and in fact, if I can just add on to the perverse logic that's being used here, if you do check into the hospital and you have some other malady and you get tested there, and assumedly in a hospital situation, you really do get the good kind of test. You get the best kind of test. You get a better one than the over-the-counter things. That's kind of proof that the COVID vaccines were working. You didn't have any symptoms. You were basically fine.
Exactly.
And then you went and you broke your arm. You ended up in the hospital. But if you want to be a complete disingenuous piece of shit, you turn that around and you say that the big problem is that we're overstating the number of people who have the numbers are too high. And you know what? You can make that argument all day long if you want to and feel good about it. And no, you shouldn't live your life by whatever numbers in the lower right-hand bottom of a TV screen on how many people that day across the country tested positive. If it, is your life different today if it's 800,000 versus when it was down to 80,000? The answer is no. Should you change your lifestyle based on that number? No. But we can't do that. We live by the scoreboard, don't we? We kind of live by the scoreboard.
And if you want, the scoreboard is hospital and morgue. That we can boil it down to that. Those are the two places, and it's keeping people out of there. This is the CNN headline. Of course, this is a story that's all over the place. The surge could be later this month, but the next few weeks are critical. Of course, they're showing children there. People seem to be in denial about the idea of children. Oh, we can't take the kids out of school. We can't do remote learning. Okay, fine. I'm with you. But who's going to be there to teach them, serve them food, be the principal, drive them to school and back? That's where we run into a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, I think, I mean, based on the folks that I read, the folks that I hear, and just general intuition, and adding in the experience of other countries around the world that have much better statistical readouts on their populations than we do. Who would have ever thought you'd be saying that South Africa has a much better grip on counting, not votes, but cases of COVID than we do. Those countries have now seen a fairly quick downhill slide in a number of cases, and they did not ever, through this whole thing, see a significant number of deaths from the Omicron variant. So you would hope that the United States isn't some freakazoid case. Well, we're not going to follow what happened in those other countries. It's not going to happen. I think it is. I just, if we can get local here for a second.
Yeah. Because we have had some development. We have had some developments here locally.
Well, there was a piece a couple days ago in the Charlotte Observer, and it was all about how gyms are handling the latest outbreak. And Mecklenburg County, they do have an ordinance. I mean, you got to wear a mask indoors right now. They've said, do it. And so if you go to a gym, you got to be wearing a mask. Okay. The gym doesn't have the option to just go laissez-faire and put a sign up and then ignore people. They got to kind of enforce it, which is sort of what happened here when we had in Guilford County our own mask mandate for indoors, and then they dropped it 6-7 weeks ago, just at the wrong time.
But we have an emergency meeting in 3 days to address this.
Right. So we can get it back in place just as Omicron starts to drop off again.
And we're being totally fair because the Guilford County Board of Commissioners is controlled by Democrats. This is a fair show. Okay. Never let it be said.
It's molasses. It's molasses in terms of being able to move quickly enough. But it really did annoy me that if I go to the Planet Fitness in Charlotte, at least everybody's wearing a mask. If I go to a Planet Fitness where I go, 9 out of 10 people now are not wearing masks. Now, the difference is, at least for me, I'm still going. I dropped out for about 2 months there several months ago when I just didn't go at all. But this time around, even though the Omicron is more prevalent, as a triple vax person who does wear, and I'm one of the freaks inside of that place where I go, I'm wearing a white N95 mask.
Yeah.
While I sit there and huff and puff on the treadmill for an hour. And I'm fine with that. But there's nobody usually within 8 or 10 feet of me. By the way, under good circumstances, nobody ever wants to get within 8 or 10 feet of me. But
try a shower.
That's a different show. It's a different podcast for a lot of reasons.
Try some deodorant. Throw some deodorant in there just for fun.
No, that's why I do it now. I haven't taken a shower in 6 months. Keeps people away from me. And they have those big ass fans blowing air around. So it would almost be the best situation for an indoor venue that you would have. It would be the opposite of being in a bar, shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of people who you don't know, who might be unmasked right now. So I'm okay with that. But we're so into whatever stage 2 or stage 3 is in total of, I'm over this. I'm done with it. I'm not going to acknowledge it. I'm going to live my life, which is okay if it works, but if it doesn't work,
you're not going to live your life. You're going to die.
You're not going to have a life to live. And
right.
The fact that we're still losing, 1,000, 1,200 people a day, which of course that equals, another 300 to 350,000, maybe more people per year until we get that number down on an annual basis. I mean, it could be me. I think that's a fairly significant number. I think that's a fairly significant disease. That I'm sure that still puts it in the top 5 or 6 things: heart disease, stroke, cancer, COVID. It's still there. And the ironic thing is that we do and have had the ability to stay away, for the most part, from the worst effects of it for a good year now. In the case of cancer, case of heart attack, I mean, they just happen. That's just, you can't take a vaccine against those things, but you can against COVID. You can. And when the books are written, and they're being written right now, about what psychosis ran through this country at so many levels to get us to react way too slow. And remember, here we are. I mean, look, a year and a half, more than a year ago, when we knew that the vaccine was about to hit and the drumbeat started, get vaccinated. This is how we win this. And Nancy Pelosi's testing, that kind of moved to the background. And we never did emphasize it the way we should have. But she was right about that. And here we are in a position where with zillions of people who are dying to be able to test themselves all the time so they can maneuver around in real life a little bit better, and they can't get tested. There aren't enough tests. And who wants to sit in line at the local Coliseum for 3 hours waiting to have somebody shove a Q-tip up your nose with your window rolled down? That's not feasible. Can't do that. So we've really had a bad response. And of course, it started with the mis and disinformation. That's never stopped. And well, what can you say? I mean, the CDC they've moved back and forth on things, but they've had to. I don't think it's completely their fault. Could they have done better? Of course they could have done better. Everybody could have done better. But if you cannot accept the fact that this was a changing story and you did have to change your advice and you had to change standards all the way through this, then you're just a fucking asshole, or you're a Republican.
Those aren't mutually exclusive, by the way. Those are not mutually exclusive.
Because they're getting, believe me, they're going to run on Joe Biden promised he would crush this virus.
And he hasn't. What an incompetent fool.
He didn't do it. He lied. Okay.
He lied. Yeah. Well, I think they've got the statistic that more people have died under COVID under Biden than Trump, right?
Oh, I know.
That's like something that's so easy to trot out. I thought that the Republican, and I don't know why Kevin McCarthy is doing this other than the fact that he's not a very bright individual. I'm now coming over to your side on this. I don't believe that Kevin McCarthy is a very bright individual at all. I thought that Parents' Bill of Rights that kind of came out of the Virginia governor's race with Youngkin, I thought that would be something that they would put out there front and center. But they're not even really going hard with that one. It's all going to be social issues. It feels like Joe Biden is a doddering Alzheimer's patient who's killing this country. And the party is really being run by AOC, and there's creeping, the socialism is always a good one. They can always kind of throw that one out there. The Joe Biden is a doddering idiot story of the day is this one, Brad. The IRS warns of service delays when 2021 tax filing season opens on January the 24th. So he's such an incompetent fool. He can't even make the IRS give me back my refund check in a timely manner. That's your Joe Biden is an incompetent idiot story.
Wait, that's been for several years.
Doesn't matter. It's not. That's not. No. Everything was great when Trump was in office.
If I recall, some of the Democratic legislation that's either been bottlenecked or hasn't gotten through yet does include a lot of money for stepped up enforcement and stepped up staffing of the IRS, which has been gutted for decades, because every time a Republican gets into office, they always run on something clever like, and if you're just listening, I'm holding up a little piece of paper about the size of a postcard. You should be able to do your taxes on the back of a postcard. It shouldn't be any more complex than that. And that gets applause. And of course, it's never going to happen that way. but they do it. So that's
Everything was great when Trump was in office, and now Biden's fucked it up, and you're not going to get
right.
you're not going to get your check back.
Perfect. Hey, you know what's a good one boiling under the surface here, and I guess it came up last week in certain circles. I didn't hear about it locally, but I got to think that until the day we die and beyond, and certainly for at least another 240 years, if the country survives, it will be a topic, which is how do you teach January 6th to the school kids?
So,
how do you do it? What do you say? Do you say nothing? Do you ignore it? Do you characterize it for actually what it was? Because I believe in the Philadelphia area, they already had a couple school systems passing around emails to the staff saying, just don't say anything.
I love that.
Was last week. Just you know what? Just ignore it.
Okay. We want the kids to have something they can really relate to. Well, let's go back to the Louisiana Purchase or something like that. That's really important for them to learn. Not January the 6th.
Well, it's like, well,
fucks.
okay, now you know what? Here are the following days you should not ever acknowledge. December 7th.
Yeah.
November 22nd.
Yeah.
July 4th. Whatever day Appomattox was signed. You know, let's not talk about the Civil War. No. None of these things, because every holiday, ML King Day. Are you kidding? What's up with that? We got to change that. Right. But the fact that the first year they were already trying to squash this in the educational system at the local level, that fits in with the school boards, which are now being assaulted by candidates who are 3%ers or people who were in Washington on January 6th. There you go. Nice job. Pennsylvania School District tells teachers not to, quote, wade into January 6th with students. Don't bring it up. So what happened, teacher? Ask your parent.
The Penridge School District, located in Bucks County. You know, that's where the singer Pink is from. You know, Alicia Moore from Central Bucks West High School in Doylestown, just outside of Philadelphia, instructed teachers in a Wednesday email to simply state that the investigation is ongoing. And as historians, we must wait until there is some distance from the event for us to actually interpret it. If students have questions,
how long? How much was 5 years, 10 years, 50 years?
I gotta say,
is it like a patent 70 years? Patent on, you know, you can now use Mickey Mouse. Okay, it's been 70 years.
It was either a group of people violently storming the nation's capital, trying to murder people to disrupt an election because they didn't like the fact that their guy had lost and he lied to them about losing, or somebody was on their way to McDonald's, got lost, and ended up in the Capitol. It was one of those two things. We can't.
Nothing in between.
We can't decide. We can't decide. And it's going to take, like you say, 10 or 20 years. And then maybe we can talk about this intelligently, because there's so many variables here that we don't know about. There's so many things that are here that we just can't figure out. Even though and this is again part of my issue with people are so stupid now, yet we have access to basically every paper ever written, many articles that have been written. Almost every newspaper article is just a couple of keystrokes away. You might have to pay $5 for an article at newspapers.com or something like that. We have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours of video from January the 6th from every angle possible, showing these people.
But you hit on something here.
Yeah.
Because of the age that we are, and this includes you, if you're listening to us or watching us, you're at least close enough in age to us in either direction, that none of us grew up with one of these little devices in our hand or in our room, that just by definition, even if you were a kid, 50, 40 years ago, like we were, you could actually get along and for the most part, ignore current events. You really could. You could actually do it, right? You don't have to watch the news. Mommy and daddy, you were doing something else.
If you were in school, if you were in high school in your civics class, they might make you on Friday bring like a current event to talk about. You have to clip something out of the newspaper. That was the extent of your current events thing.
But now the kids are inundated, whether they want to be or not. I mean, I guess if you spend all your time on Snapchat, just talking to your friends about fashion, you don't know anything about current events. But I'm willing to guess that even there, things bleed through. So to think that 1 year after what happened on January 6, 2021, that an educational system anywhere would immediately put out the wimpy, cheap, gutless edict to ignore the first anniversary of an event which is going to shape the lives of these kids forever. To ignore it, I think, is a complete abandonment of educational responsibility. Now, I understand the fear that educators have now of, well, let's say what it is, right-wing kooks who are now setting the standard in this country for what can and can't be discussed, while they accuse the left of censoring speech. Okay. But believe me, it's not liberals who are saying that we should not discuss January 6th.
No, it's
school.
not.
Okay.
It's not at all.
The only people that would want that are Trump defenders, liars, people who live in some kind of crazed world of gaslighting and denying the reality, or people that think that the patriotism shown by those courageous people who just wanted to see the election conducted fairly and that the electoral college count be free and clean and above board, with a secondary set of electors being shoved down the throat of the country by Mike Pence, who didn't have the power to do it. Those are the only people that would want nothing talked about in school right now, because I assume that these folks realize that little Johnny would come home without the same story that you might have been trying to propagandize little Johnny or Judy with at home. If you talk about politics at the kitchen table, I don't know. I mean, I just think that this is something, when we can file this one away and it'll always come back.
Well,
next year, this will be even a bigger deal, because it's going to happen as we are getting ready to have a presidential election, the next year. I mean, that's what's going to we're going to be that far along.
But there's also going to be another 365 days of minimization, excuse making. You've already heard almost every Republican who's got a brain, well, not a brain, almost every Republican who's still like breathing air, say that, the Democrats, they exploited this January the 6th thing. Oh my God, it was the worst thing ever. Why did they do that? And if you don't think that this sort of thing is going to happen, we've had the struggle in North Carolina over the University of North Carolina, getting more and more Republicans on that board to try to fuck up the University of North Carolina. If you don't think this sort of thing can happen at your local university, at least a public university, then think again. That sort of thing can happen too. We don't want any of the professors here at good old State U talking about January 6th as if they know what's going on. Still an ongoing investigation. Don't say anything.
I think I haven't thought of that.
Yeah.
I think you may have struck a little bit of predictive gold there.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine there would be anything that would stop these Republican Trump members of committees that run educational institutions at the highest level, as far as public universities, those who might be appointed by a Republican governor.
That's right.
As in the case of North Carolina, Roy Cooper doesn't get to decide who's on the board of trustees all the way up and down at UNC. So yeah, this is one of those stories that it's not too stupid to talk about. It's kind of important to talk about, because this is about shaping the narrative. let's play a little thought experiment game here. What do you think was taught in schools in the United States of America in 1867?
Oh,
A couple years after the Civil War ended. And of course, I would assume that we would believe that it was taught just a little bit differently.
sure.
If there were any in Mississippi, in Massachusetts or Ohio, or this stuff never stops.
No, the battle to rewrite history over January the 6th is going to be going on for a long time. And that's well within our lifetime. And the people who are like us and the people who know exactly a lot of people know exactly what happened, but they don't feel comfortable with actually admitting what happened. Well, we have to be out there so that the truth is told.
No, but we're jumping the gun here because we have not had a full public airing through hearings on TV in prime time, which there will be soon enough, and where we will have witnesses, and we're going to have some star witnesses. Okay, these aren't just going to be, some guy who was picking up trash on Constitution Avenue. No, these are going to be names that you know, and
right.
They're going to be talking about what actually happened and what they knew. And I know it's easy for us to sit back and say, well, I know it doesn't matter what's said in the hearings. Nothing's going to change these people's mind. Nothing's going to move them. And of course, that's true at some level. But at this other level, a great percentage of these people know the truth. So while they're denying it, the more you can pile on top in terms of incontrovertible evidence, and the more you can pile on with people who, I thought so-and-so in the Trump administration, that was a solid guy. I thought Wilbur Ross was a great guy. I thought Kellyanne Conway was aces. If these kind of people are all dragged in front of the country and have to tell what they knew and where they were, and when they knew it, and when they communicated with Trump, what his responses were, he's not going to be able to refute that. And I know he will try. And I know the whole thing is that this is an illegitimate investigation. I mean, Jim Jordan, the guy who a couple times in the last few months has said, hey, bring me in. I got nothing to hide. Well,
bullshit.
As of today, guess what? I got a lot to hide.
That's right. Trump.
I looked at what I've done in my life. I have a lot to hide.
A bunch to hide. A lot of it involving wrestling teams that you actually coached on.
Right. But the hearings are not about that. No. And he will be subpoenaed here. And
what he knew and when he knew it.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think, and I don't know if this is a discussable point or not, if it's been discussed. What if Pelosi had allowed Jim Jordan to be on the committee, and then a member of the committee were to get subpoenaed to be a witness to the committee? Would this be like a Robin Williams skit where he would be up on the dais, ask a question, then run around and
interviews himself? Sure.
Right. Would it have been that way? I doubt.
I've been finally listening to the Jonathan Karl book. And I don't want to minimize. I would never minimize what happened on January the 6th, but there was almost more dangerous shit that was going on in and around that same time frame, including Trump floating the idea of attacking every country in the world. Shit like that. just as an example, when he fired Mike Esper and he got Christopher Miller in as the interim Secretary of Defense and stuff like that. So there was. I don't want to say that I don't want to, January 6th overshadows that, but there was a lot of other stuff that was very, very dangerous that was going on at that period of time.
Well, Britt, we've been at enough meetings of the folks we work with to know that, you know what, Britt, there are no bad ideas.
There are no bad ideas.
No bad ideas.
including calling our radio station, giving it the call letters WCNT. I see no problem with that. Is that a problem?
W can't. That's what it meant. We can't.
Well,
do
there's
anything
other
wrong.
vowels. There's other
Yeah.
vowels that are in there. The best is can't.
Yeah, that was a good idea. All right, let's try this again. Let's try this again tomorrow.
We'll see you